Yo, what's good everybody? Today we are breaking down the synths from this song right here.
Ever since I was a kid, and why was
This one was super fun to do, and today we're going to be using the plugin Serum too. But even if you don't have Serum, you can do this with pretty much any basic synth plugin. Let's get into it. Alright, so let's start off with that bass sound first. The first thing we're going to do is select the saw wave. We're going to come to this octave and put it to -2. We're going to put the unison at 2 and detune that to 0.01. After you do that, it should sound like this. Next, let's move down to envelope 1, which I see is kind of like the shape of the sound. And I'll put those settings on the screen. After that, the graph should look something like this. Next, we'll move over here and cut on a low pass filter. We're going to put the drive around 8%, put the resonance at 15%. And then for right now, we're going to put the cutoff around 174, but we'll come back to this. Once you do that, it should sound like this. Next, let's move to the effects tab. We're going to turn on some reverb, some distortion, some delay, an EQ, and a filter. Now feel free to screenshot my effects settings because that's kind of how you get from like the 90% to the 100%. If you guys have any questions about specific settings, let me know and I'll answer you in the comments. All right, now that we have this, let's go back to the main screen. Now if you listen closely to this sound, it kind of gets brighter on the second half of the phrase. And we can achieve this by opening up the cutoff on the low pass filter. So right now we got it at about 174. But on the second half of the phrase, let's open it up to like 375. So just so you can hear the difference, here it is around like 375. And then here it is around like 175. It's a slight difference, but it's there. So the way we can achieve this without having to go back and forth while we're playing it is to do something called automation. And what automation can do is basically move this knob for us automatically without us having to do anything. So if you look at my screen here, those dots right there, that's basically the filter opening to 354 and then down to 174. All right, so now I'm gonna play the final bass sound and keep an eye on this filter over here and watch it move when it gets to the second phrase. All right, so now let's knock out that main lead sound. All right, so first thing we're going to do is start with a saw wave. We're going to put the unison at 3. Then we're going to detune that unison to 0.03. Next, let's move down to envelope 1 and I'll put those settings on the screen. After you do that, the graph should look something like this. Next, let's move to envelope 2 and I'll put those settings on the screen as well. After you do that, the graph should look something like this. Next, move over here and cut on the low pass filter. And we're going to put the cutoff around 271. Next, we're going to take this envelope 2 and map that to the cutoff. Once you do that, a blue ring should form. And then hover your mouse over this little circle here and move the blue ring to 23%. And my understanding of the blue ring is that it kind of controls how much the filter opens up. But if anybody knows the proper term for that and what it actually does, let me know. We can all learn together. So after you do that, it should sound like this. All right, so next let's move to the effects tab. Let's add a little bit of reverb. And we're also going to add some delay, but we're going to have to use Ableton's delay. And the reason we need to use Ableton's delay is because we need it to be in groups of 3. This is how it sounds when we hit 2. And I'll turn the feedback up just so we can hear it a little better. So listen to this. But we need it to be in groups of 3. So check this out. And for some reason when we use Serum's delay, it doesn't give us that. It just goes by groups of 2. So shout out to Ableton for having a little better delay than Serum does. Okay, so here's the final delay sound. All right, so we got one more sound to go and it's going to be that little texture you kind of hear in the background. So let's go to oscillator A and we're actually going to go to spectral and then electric guitar. So the wave should look like this and it should sound a little bit like this. All right, so we're going to put the octave up 2. We're going to put the fine tune down to -5. We're going to put the unison at 5. Next, we'll detune that unison to 0.13. And we're going to put the volume level at -22 dB. After that, it should sound like this. Next, to just give it some more texture, we're going to open up oscillator B. And we're going to pick the exact same waveform. And all the settings are going to be exactly the same, except we're going to put the fine tune to 5 instead of -5. And we're going to put the volume level around like -33 dB. So now it sounds something like this. Next, let's move down to envelope 1 and I'll put those settings on the screen. After you do that, the graph should look something like this. Next, to give it some depth, we're going to turn on this noise filter. Go to analog and then choose bright white. And then put the pitch around 60% and the volume level around 24%. So after you do that, it should sound like this. Next, we're going to come over here and we're going to do a high pass filter this time. And we're going to put the cutoff around 206. We're going to put the resonance around like 3% and then put the drive at 9%. So right now it sounds like this. So we need to add a little bit of movement to it. We can achieve this by adding the LFO down here. Switch the rate from BPM to Hertz. Put it around 9.8 or so. Then we're going to take this LFO and map it to the volume level of oscillator A and oscillator B. And we're going to take this blue ring and put it around 41%. And then oscillator B is going to be around 43%. So now we have... And if you look at the LFO chart, you can kind of see that line constantly moving through it. That's the sound passing through the LFO. At least I think it is. All right, so last thing we got to do is go to the effects tab. Let's add a filter, some chorus, a phaser, and some reverb. Again, if you have any specific questions about the settings, let me know and I'll answer in the comments, but this is how you get that last 10% of the sound. So now here's the final texture sound. And so now let's listen to all 3 sounds together.
Ever since I was a kid, and why was it?
So there you have it. We made it all the way through with all 3 sounds. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, leave a comment. Any questions you have, I'm gonna be going through and answering whatever you guys have to say. So don't be afraid to reach out. Also, if there's a song you would like to see broken down, please let me know. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.